For thousands of years, people drank something alive, tangy, fizzy, and full of the exact microbial life your gut is missing today. Not made in a factory, made at home, in a jar, from grains, fruit, honey, or even stale bread. Then refrigeration showed up, sugar got cheap, and the living drink got pushed off the table. And this is exactly why most of what is on store shelves today fails the test. The cultures get heated off and killed. Then the drink gets bottled, sweetened, and refrigerated so it survives months in a cooler. By the time it reaches you, a lot of what passes for kombucha and the rest of it is basically bubbly sugar water. The living part is already gone. But today, we are bringing back 15 ancient fermented drinks that need almost nothing but a jar, a few ingredients, and a little time. So let's get into it. And stick around, because the last one is so simple that once you have it going, you may never stop. Number 15 is Oxymel, and it earns its place as the living tonic that kept people standing through the hardest work of antiquity. Oxymel goes back thousands of years, heavily recorded in ancient Greece and Rome as a staple for daily vitality. While the modern world turned to sugary sports drinks, the old world relied on a simple synergy: raw, living apple cider vinegar and raw, unpasteurized honey, often infused with wild herbs. Mixed together with water and left to infuse, the beneficial organic acids and wild enzymes create something deeply settling to the stomach. Now, in its simplest form, Oxymel is just stirred together. But traditionally, using truly raw ingredients meant combining the living acetic acid bacteria of the vinegar, this is what people call the mother, with the prebiotic compounds of raw honey. This serves as a powerful primer for your digestion. What made Oxymel matter was timing. People reached for it precisely when the body needed a bitter, sour reset to help break down food or calm an angry gut. To bring it back, you mix equal parts raw apple cider vinegar and raw honey. Dilute a tablespoon of it in a glass of water and drink it before a meal. Number 14 is Ayran, the salted yogurt drink of Turkey and the broader region around it. If you've ever had a thin, tangy, faintly salty yogurt drink alongside a heavy meal, you've had Ayran, or one of its close cousins. It is made from just 3 things: cultured yogurt, water, and a pinch of salt, whisked together until it is frothy and pourable. A drink so simple it almost doesn't feel like a recipe. Across Turkey, the Balkans and Central Asia, Ayran is the everyday companion to rich, savoury grilled food, the thing that traditionally helps a heavy plate sit easier. This is one of those drinks that whole regions consume daily and never think twice about. It isn't a health product there, it's just what you drink with lunch. To make it, you whisk plain, live culture yogurt with cold water until it is thin enough to drink. Add a small pinch of salt, and that is your Ayran. A cold glass alongside a heavy meal is exactly how it was used for generations. Number 13 is a grain drink so old it shows up in the writings of ancient civilizations and still sold on street corners today. Number 13 is Boza, and it's one of the oldest fermented drinks still made the same way it was thousands of years ago. Boza is a thick, lightly fermented drink made from grains: millet, wheat, bulgur, or corn, cooked down, sweetened a little, and then left to ferment with a culture until it turns thick, sour, and faintly fizzy. It has been made across the Balkans, Turkey, and Central Asia for an extraordinarily long time. There are records of grain drinks like this going back to the earliest cities humans ever built in ancient Mesopotamia. What sets Boza apart is its texture. It's not a thin, watery drink. It's thick enough to be almost a light porridge you sip, traditionally dusted with cinnamon and sometimes roasted chickpeas on top. In the cold months, a glass of Boza was served as a meal. It was a way to warm up and a way to sneak in your daily dose of living cultures all at once. Boza is a more advanced ferment than something like Oxymel, so for most people, it's one to seek out from a traditional maker rather than to make it at home. But knowing it exists, and knowing that people have been drinking fermented grain for as long as there have been cities, tells you just how deep this tradition truly is. Number 12 is Kanji, a fermented drink from northern India, traditionally made during colder months. Kanji is built on a really unique idea. You take black carrots or beets, cut them into batons, and submerge them in water with salt and ground mustard seeds. Then you set the jar in a warm spot, often a sunny Window-Sill, and you wait. Over several days, the wild cultures ferment the water into something deeply tangy, a little peppery from the mustard, and a brilliant dark red. This is the same lacto-fermentation we've seen again and again, but this time applied to a drink. Salt, vegetables, water, and thyme. No special equipment, no starter to buy, nothing but the cultures already present doing the work they have always done. In the regions where Kanji is made, it's a seasonal tradition enjoyed before or alongside meals to help them settle. The carrots and beets that flavour it are eaten too, so nothing is wasted. If you'd like to make this at home, be sure to move your jar into the fridge once it tastes pleasantly sour. This will slow the fermentation down and leave it ready to drink for the next few days. Number 11 takes us into the high cloud mountains of the Caucasus to meet a legendary ferment born from livestock and pure survival. Number 11 is traditional milk kefir, and it's perhaps the most powerful probiotic drink in human history. While the modern world thinks of yogurt as the ultimate gut food, our ancestors in the ancient Caucasus Mountains knew that kefir was king. It's made using kefir grains, which are complex, jelly-like clusters of dozens of strains of beneficial bacteria and wild yeasts. When they're left in raw milk, these living grains consume the lactose and transform the milk into a tart, thick, slightly effervescent drink that is light years ahead of standard yogurt in microbial diversity. If you caught our last video, you already know milk kefir's whole story. For thousands of years, these grains were guarded like family heirlooms, passed down through generations, because they were how people kept fresh dairy alive without a refrigerator. To make it, you add a spoonful of live kefir grains to a jar of fresh milk, cover it with a cloth, and let it sit on the counter for 24 hours. You strain the grains out to save for the next batch, and your living drink is ready. And for anyone who is sensitive to dairy, it might be worth a look, because as the grains ferment the milk, the cultures eat up most of the milk sugars. That is the lactose that gives so many people trouble. So, what you're left with is a drink that tends to be far gentler on the stomach than a regular glass of milk. Number 10 is Tepache, the fermented pineapple drink of Mexico. This is easily one of the most genuinely delightful ferments you will ever make. It has its roots in pre-Columbian history, originally made by the Aztecs from corn, and later adapted to the fruit skins we use today. You take pineapple scraps, add water and a little unrefined sugar, often with cinnamon and clove, and let the whole thing ferment for a few days. The wild yeasts living on the pineapple skin wake up and turn it into a lightly fizzy golden drink that tastes like summer. For generations in Mexico, Tepache was a street drink, sold cold from big barrels, made from fruit that would otherwise have gone to waste. It's the perfect example of the old way of thinking, where nothing was discarded, and even the scraps became something worth drinking. And that is the beauty of it. The part of the pineapple you would normally throw away becomes a sweet, tart, fizzy drink in 2 to 3 days on your counter. Once it tastes good to you, strain it, chill it, and that is it. Number 9 is a cooling drink that traditionally tamed the heat of some of the spiciest food on earth. Number 9 is Lassi, the cooling counterpart to the fiery meals of the Indian subcontinent. Lassi is built on the same foundation as Ayran, a cultured yogurt base, but it goes its own way. Traditional lassi is yogurt blended with water until smooth and frothy, and it comes in a savoury version with a little salt and cumin, or a sweet version, often with fruit like mango. Either way, the heart of it is living fermented yogurt. In the regions where it is made, lassi dates back thousands of years as an ancient Ayurvedic digestive. Alongside hot, spiced, heavy food, a cold glass of lassi calms the whole meal down. And it brings the active enzymes of the yogurt with it. It's one of the greatest pairings in all of traditional eating. And the best part is how forgiving it is. If you can blend yogurt and water, you can make lassi, and you control exactly what goes in it. Savoury or sweet, however you like it. Serve it cold, alongside a heavy plate, the way it has always been done. Number 8 is a drink made from juniper berries and water, and almost nobody outside its mountain homeland has ever heard of it. Number 8 is Smreka, a remarkably simple fermented drink from Bosnia. This one is unbelievably minimal. You take dried juniper berries, you put them in a jar of water, and you wait. Over a few weeks, the wild cultures present on the berries ferment the water into a tart, clean, faintly piney drink. No sugar, No starter, no special equipment, just juniper, water, and thyme. Smreka was a traditional drink of the Bosnian mountains, a way to make plain water into something bright and refreshing, using a wild berry that grew all around. Juniper itself has carried an ancient folk reputation across Europe for centuries. It's tart, clean, and unlike anything you will find in a store. And it shows, one more time, that a living drink can be made from almost nothing if you know how. Number 7 takes the humblest thing in the old kitchen, stale bread, and turns it into a drink that an entire empire ran on. Number 7 is bread kvass, and it's one of the most ingenious uses of leftovers in all of human cooking. Bread kvass is the original, the one that the word kvass really belongs to. It's made from stale, dark rye bread. You toast the bread, you pour hot water over it, you let it steep, and then once it has cooled, you ferment that liquid with a little sweetening and a culture until it becomes faintly bubbly. For centuries across Russia, Ukraine, and Eastern Europe, bread kvass was everywhere, with roots running back to ancient Egyptian bread beers. It was the everyday thirst quencher, sold from carts in the streets in summer, and made in every household from the bread that was too old to eat. Bread kvass is a slightly more involved ferment, so it's one to graduate to, but the idea behind it, that even stale bread became a beloved national drink, tells you everything about how resourceful the old kitchen really was. Number 6 is traditional short mead, and this is how our ancestors captured the magic of natural carbonation before machines existed. While aged mead is known as a strong wine, short mead is its ancient low-alcohol cousin, a simple honey soda made for quick, everyday drinking. It relies on raw honey, water, and wild fermentation. Raw honey is naturally packed with wild yeasts that sit dormant until you dilute it with water. Once mixed, those yeasts wake up and begin consuming the honey sugars, turning the water into a lightly fizzy drink with a rich botanical aroma. This is the homemade answer to modern soda, made the way sparkling drinks originally were before they became chemical sugar water in a can. Because it's never boiled or chemically stabilized, the bubbles come entirely from living, wild cultures. Number 5 takes the famous fermented tea you may have seen on store shelves and reveals the older, more elegant version behind it. Number 5 is jeune, often called the champagne of fermented teas, and it's the refined older relative of a drink you have almost certainly seen. Most people have heard of kombucha by now, which is coming up next. Jeune, however, is its shire cousin. Where kombucha is made with black tea and sugar, jeune is traditionally made with green tea and honey, fermented with its own special living culture. The result is lighter and more delicate, which is why people call it the champagne of the category. Jeune has a traditional reputation, particularly in stories from the mountains of Asia, as a prized ferment made with honey rather than sugar. Whether or not every legend about its origins is exact, what matters is the drink itself, a refined, lightly sparkling, living tea. Jeune needs its own dedicated culture, so it's one to make once you have those grains in hand. The principle is simple: green tea, raw honey, a living culture, and time. Number 4 brings us to the living drink that may be the easiest of all to keep going, batch after batch, forever. Number 4 is water kefir, and it's the one I would point most people toward who want a drink they can make endlessly. We just talked about milk kefir, made with those cauliflower-like dairy grains. Water kefir is its dairy-free relative, made with different grains that are small, translucent, jewel-like clusters of living cultures. You drop those grains into sugar water, sometimes with a little fruit, and within a day or two they ferment it into a light, bubbly, faintly sweet drink. Like milk kefir, the grains are reusable. You strain them out, you put them into a fresh batch of sugar water, and they go again. People keep the same water kefir grains alive for years, making a continuous supply of living, fizzy drinks for the cost of a little sugar and some fruit. It works fast, it forgives a lot, and it is endlessly customizable with different fruits and flavors, which makes it one of the friendliest ferments for anyone just starting out. Number 3 is the famous one, the fermented tea that brought this whole world back into the mainstream. But there's more to it than the store shelf suggests. Number 3 is kombucha. I'm sure you've either seen this or heard about it. Kombucha is made by fermenting sweetened tea with a living culture, a thick, rubbery disc of bacteria and yeast that floats on top of the brew. That culture transforms the sweet tea over a week or two into a tangy, complex drink. It's traditionally said to date back over 2,000 years to ancient Northeast Asia, and in recent decades it has spread across the entire world. Here's what's worth knowing though. The kombucha in the store is real, but it's often loaded with added juice and sugar to make it sweeter for modern tastes. And some of it is pasteurized, which defeats the purpose. The traditional version, made at home, is far less sweet and genuinely alive. And that is the case for making it yourself. You control the sugar, the strength, and the flavour, and you get the full character of the tea along with the living cultures. Once it ferments from sweet to pleasantly tart, you bottle it, and if you want that fizz, let it sit sealed a couple more days before it goes in the fridge. Number 2 is a forgotten Nordland treasure, a sparkling wild citrus soda that completely redefines what homemade lemonade can be. Number 2 is Sima, an ancient fermented lemon drink from Finland that dates back to old northern mead making traditions. Long before the modern world created chemical lemon-flavoured soft drinks, people in Northern Europe were fermenting whole citrus using nothing but water, unrefined sweeteners, and wild yeasts. You slice lemons, combine them with water and honey or unrefined sugar, and let them sit. Over just a few days, the wild cultures wake up on the fruit skins, consuming the sugars and turning it into a refreshing drink that is low in alcohol and full of live, active enzymes. In old northern households, this was the seasonal refreshment, enjoyed cold to wake the system up. And it's a beautiful place to start because it asks for zero complicated equipment and teaches you the basics of wild fermentation in just a few days. Here's a pro tip. When you make it, drop a few raisins into the jar. As the Sima ferments, the raisins float to the top, and that's how you'll know it is ready to strain, chill, and enjoy. And that brings us to number 1, the simplest, most useful, and endlessly repeatable drink culture of them all. Number 1 is the living culture itself, the ancient phenomenon behind so many of these drinks. Throughout this list, one thing kept coming up, a culture you grow and keep. The kefir grains, the kombucha disc, the jung culture. These living colonies of bacteria and yeast, collectively referred to historically as tebekos, or starters, are the real secret of the old fermented kitchen. Once you have one, you never have to buy it again. You feed it, you use it, and it makes you living drinks for years. Our ancestors didn't buy a new drink every day. They kept a culture alive. A crock, a jar, a cloth-covered pot that simply kept going, handed down, shared with neighbours, carried from one home to the next. The drink was never a product. It was a living thing the household tended to, like a sourdough starter or a garden. And that, my friends, is why these drinks nearly disappeared. You can't put a living, tended culture on a warehouse shelf for a year. The modern world wanted shelf-stable and sterile, so it gave us overly sweet, lifeless drinks full of preservatives and let the living ones go. But the cultures never actually vanished. People kept them, and anyone can start one again on a kitchen counter this week. So here's the truth that ties the whole list together. You don't need to buy 15 different drinks. You need to keep one living culture going and learn to feed it. Start with the simplest like a Sima or a short mead. Get comfortable and let it become as ordinary in your home as it was in your great-grandmother's. If you want a simple place to start, we've put together a free guide, full of everyday swaps that bring the old ways back into your home and kitchen, so you can start making changes and start feeling better. The link is in the description, and it is free. And if you haven't yet seen the companion to this video, where we cover 15 ancient fermented foods that modern people stopped eating, it's waiting for you right now. The link is on your screen. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you in the next one, here at the Natural Living Library.